All right, we can establish a quorum. All are present and accounted for. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, or setting the agenda. Have a motion to review the agenda for approval.
Make a motion.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. Gentlemen, under discussion, I believe there was an email sent out. I would ask you to consider, or ask you to remove the budget amendment, which would be, I didn't get the resolution number. I think it was 2001. Per the information you were given, it's not necessary to do that amendment at this time, and so we would rather come back with it later on when it's more appropriate. Any other discussion? If there's not any other discussion, if I could have a motion, if you'll consider removing the 2001.
I make a motion to approve the agenda, providing that resolution 20-01 is removed.
So I've got a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton to remove the item and approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We do have the agenda set. We will move forward. Next item would be the approval of the minutes from the December 19th meeting. Do I have a motion to review the minutes for approval from the regular December meeting?
Motion.
Motion by Alderman Rector. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. Any discussion on the minutes? Call for a vote by Alderman Cates. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are accepted. This is the time in the meeting where we take citizens' comments, where you can participate in the meeting. If you have care to make a comment, please step forward, state your name, and there's a 3-minute limit. The floor is now open. Yes, sir.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Mike Brown. I have been here a few times, and some of you may remember. I have a strong interest in the city manager form of government and the charter. I've been watching you deal with this for over a year now, and I see no resolution to it. I'd like to hear a comment, Mayor, from you on why this is not got done and what the hang-up is, and so that I can further understand it. I believe a lot of the problems we have could be resolved with this form of government. The matter of writing grants, the matter of day-to-day operations, things of that nature can be dealt with by a trained professional. And I would like to hear your comments on that at the appropriate time.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to be heard this evening?
I'm Judy Miller. I live in Brookside. I'd like to know how many tornado sirens we have in the city. The other night when we had the tornado warning, you can't hear it in Brookside. I also have a friend who lives in Belmead, which is across Chickasaw Ridge from the water park, and she said she couldn't hear it. She's closer to City Hall. I know we have 3, 4, and the only time we can ever hear them is on a Saturday if they're checking them and we have the windows open. But the other night when we were under that tornado warning, if we hadn't got a notification on our phone, we wouldn't have known we were under a tornado warning. And if we don't have enough for all the citizens, could this possibly be something that could be looked at to add to the budget this coming year?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Anyone else care to be heard this evening? Okay. Go ahead and continue forward. Again, I want to welcome all of you here this evening and thank you for coming and participating in your government. It does make a difference. I want to wish everyone a happy new year. We are off to a great start with this new year as far as adding new rooftops, businesses continuing to come to Oakland or talked to us about coming to Oakland, and there's some great things I think that we'll see happen in 2020. Do want to make sure everyone is aware that Monday, which is January 20th, is a holiday, MLK Day, and the town offices will be closed as we observe that holiday. As far as the charter changes, the board has gone through their due diligence. They've gotten the changes done. They've gotten the resolution passed. They sent it to the legislation. The legislation only hears it in the first session, and they weren't able to get it in last year's session, which is why it's not been done. And I believe it's actually a discussion item that's on the agenda tonight as well. The expectation is that it will be done in January, early February in the first session is what we're being told, but we will have more comments on that as well. And as far as the sirens, not sure we've got 3 or 4. I have a feeling that I will ask Fire Chief Walsh to mention as well when he comes up and speaks, but to the best of my knowledge, we never, while there was a warning, the winds were never at a point that ignite or that set off the alarm for us to actually turn them on. We do need to check if you're not hearing them, because I know there's one right behind this building. I know there's another one in there, and there's one down on Highway 64 on the west end. And since Chief Wall's department manages those, I'll get him to speak to us as well. But if our folks aren't hearing them, then we need to check and see what we can do, whether it's add more. But to the best of my knowledge, they never came on this past weekend because they never got the notification from the National Weather Association, which is what they track and follow in order to turn those on.
So you're saying we have 2?
Now, we've got at least 3, if I'm not mistaken, but I won't forward the word I'm getting, but I'll let the expert cover the ground that I don't know at this point. All right, well, we will go ahead and continue forward then. Next would be reports from the department heads. First would be code enforcement. Mr. Owens.
For the month of December, we had 24 building permits, 10 of them being new homes, 4 of them being storage buildings, 5 of them being fence permits, 1 general business permit, 2 sign permits, 1 bonus room finish out, 1 pergola, 26 plumbing permits, 11 mechanical permits, 2 planning applications, 44 re-inspection fees, 2 BZA applications, which generated $24,366.80. On the inspection side, we did 25 site inspections, 30 rough-in plumbing inspections, 26 sewer inspections, 19 sheeting inspections, 10 brick tie inspections, 18 hold-down inspections, 13 top-outs, 14 rough cast, 18 mechanical tent, 20 framing, 41 final plumbing, 37 final gas, 36 final mechanical, and 39 certificate of occupancies. On the code compliance side, we had 45 London Street or silk fence issues, 8 items in the street issues, 3 drainage issues, 3 porta potty issues, 8 trash and debris issues, 60 notices were issued, 60 come into compliance. Any questions?
I've got one for you.
Yes, sir.
How many of these are reoccurrences that you write up, you know?
I do not know, to be honest with you.
Like, are you writing the same people up each month, or is it different?
Well, we only have about 12 builders in Oakland, so I would assume some of them are getting written up every month. With 12 builders and 60 notices, now do the math on that, it has to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in other words, sometimes they're just not paying attention to what you're.
Well, they'll rectify the situation when it rains. Then go back to square one. Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that we require rental companies, leasing companies to register those properties with us. Is that true in Oakland?
That's my understanding.
It is when they come and just helping out here to get their water turned on, they have to provide either a lease or something showing that they own the home, and at that point, if it's a lease or a rent, then we'll make sure that it's on the rental registry.
So we should know how many rental properties we have in the town?
We should, yes.
I would love to have that number.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you all.
All right, next would be Public Works, Mr. Ellis.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Have your report in front of you. Looks like we treated 29.3 million gallons of drinking water last month. We had 11 new utility taps, 204 requests for locates, which seems to be a pretty consistent number there. And we also treated 24 million gallons of wastewater. And crews, in-house staff repaired 7 storm drains. To give you a quick update on the fire hydrant maintenance program that's scheduled for late February, early March. I'm really not sure at this point how long it's going to take to finish it, but it should go pretty quick. Once they get on it, they're going to stay on it till they finish. And lastly, before I see if you guys have any questions, as I sometimes do, I want to take a minute and thank the employees for the town. We had recent, as mentioned earlier, storms through the weekend, Friday and Saturday. We had a few issues, nothing too major, but the guys, like always, stepped up and took care of business and rectified those issues in a very timely manner, and I'm grateful for each and every one.
They actually worked all weekend, if I remember correctly, on 2 different issues, both Saturday and Sunday.
Culvert washout, something.
Yes,
And
and a water main break.
water main that broke as
Trees
well.
across the road, things like that, yeah.
All right, any questions for Mr. Ellis this evening?
No,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on, Parks and Rec, Mr. Mullen.
Good evening, gentlemen. We had senior bingo last Thursday with a New Year's theme. There were 44 seniors in attendance. Spring soccer registration started on Monday. It's going to be open until February 24th. We've got 5 age groups ranging from age 3 to 16. The games will start on March 28th and end on May 16th. We're going to have our first session of our soccer referee clinic next Tuesday, January 21st at 6:30 p.m. at the Oakland Activity Center. And then we're pretty excited about this youth game night. We'll be on January 31st over at the Activity Center from 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be a fun night for kids or students ages 13 to 18. We're going to have board games as well as other mind thinking games, kind of having a throwback to old-fashioned night where before we had technology. So hopefully it'll be a good turnout for the kids and something fun for them to do. Any questions tonight?
yes, sir. When does our maintenance contract start on the field behind the Oakland Elementary School? I know we help keep that up, but when do we start working on that?
They've asked, or the school has asked for soccer and baseball to be ready by about March 1st.
I was wondering if, and I'd be more than happy to attend, but if we could have a work day over there, maybe. And I know now it's looks like some Poana and some stuff coming up in the infield, but we could knock it out with some Roundup. Now, the field, the grass looks excellent on the spray job there.
Yes.
That's, I mean, it looks great. There's not a weed in the grass that I could see. It was
And
remarkable.
since we added the extra infield dirt, I've noticed that it seems to be repelling the water pretty quickly, even with as cold as it's been lately.
I do think that it would be advantageous to you with all this rain we've had to go over there and mark those low spots at this time. I had my Sunday shoes on, is why I didn't over there today, but I take some stakes. And there's only about 3 of them where it used to be just terrible, like behind the plate and stuff. But of course in between first and second and then second and short. But you could take some stakes right there and mark those low spots with that water in there, and then we could
Drag it in.
we could get some sand and fix that pretty quick. But I'd also like to see us, how is our budget going?
For Parks and Rec,
Like turfus. We didn't ever put any turfus.
we didn't put surface on, but I mean, it's something I can look into.
Or not, I think I named a brand name, I think it's got a,
They call it surface.
yeah. Yeah, I just went over there and looked at it, and I also have a edger that I think I could cut that straight. If the town don't have one, I'd be happy, but I think if we could schedule a work day, like in February, on a Saturday or so, I'd be more than happy to come and try to get it in just a little bit better than it was last year. But it looks good compared to what it has, Brandon. It looks really good.
I'd be willing to go to it.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Mullins this evening? Thank you, sir. All right, next would be Fire Chief Walls. We're anxiously awaiting you this evening.
First, let me start out with stats. Okay, the fire department responded to a total of 83 responses, 6 of these being fire, 62 emergency medical services, 1 service call, 14 good intent calls. I'll abbreviate so I can answer the questions about the sirens. Went to a seminar about the new law in Tennessee on the Brady Act, about the Cancer Presumption Act for firefighters, looking at what the city's liability is versus the state and the federal government. Most of the people I talk with, they actually get, which if the firefighter so asks to have the cancer screening for the 4 cancers, the municipality is responsible to provide that screening for them. Talking with the other municipalities, including Memphis, Arlington, Bartlett, Germantown, they're actually doing this through the firefighter's wellness benefit through his insurance. The mayor's been, I asked him to look into this with our insurance on that, if he wants to tell us what you found out so far.
Yeah, we're told by the insurance agency, as long as it's coded as wellness, that Blue Cross Blue Shield will cover it. So we'll be pushing that out, rolling it out through the fire department this year.
And Saturday, we're having our testing for recruit firefighters to hire. We have 7 good applicants, strong applicants that have applied. One thing we're doing this time is I talked to Vice Mayor Sutton one time about how to trace how we're getting out to people. And I think this is important as a city, is when we're trying to hire for positions, we find out how these people are hearing about these jobs. And which we're doing that. Matter of fact, that's going to be something we're going to ask the candidates to fill out on how they heard about the job and so on like that. As far as the sirens, we have 4 sirens for the whole community. This was done in a storm ready grant back in early 2000 by the federal government. They sent people out to look at exactly what Oakland needed to sound. The sirens are never designed for an in-home warning system. They're actually designed for when you're out walking in the community or outside, because it's just like any emergency vehicle down the road. Your home is designed to keep sounds out. What the federal government now is leaning more toward are early warning systems like your telephone. EMA is working on a program where they have everybody's zip codes inside the system, and it rapidly dials and notifies people about this. As far as the storms, we were very aware of the storms prior to. The command center was opened in Somerville. Oakland was never in the polygon for a tornado warning. I was notified the minute that Rossville and Piperton were done, because at that time, which we already had people sitting and monitoring, the normal way we get the call is fire dispatch or in Somerville will call us and say the weather service that says sound the siren. But we know that there could be a lag, so we are actually monitoring the screen ourselves to see where the polygon is and how it's traveling. So we were never unprotected. We test the sirens Saturdays, but we only do if it's a completely clear day. Because you'll be surprised if you sound and there's a cloud coming over, oh my God, what's going on? But actually the sirens are not just for tornado. If we have a hazardous material truck wreck in the middle of Oakland, this can also warn us for that. So that's the reason we're very, very cautious, because people become complacent. You hear this over and over again, you just don't pay attention to it. And actually what they found is if you do hear the siren in your home, everybody walks outside to look at the sky. So that's the reason they're looking at going to better, more modern sounding systems on this. But we definitely keep the sirens up. And Oakland has not really expanded past the studies that they had done to give us the best warning for the bug.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Walls this evening? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, next would be Police Department. Assistant Chief Gaines is filling in for the chief this evening, who is off work today.
Gentlemen, stats are for the reporting weeks of December 9th through January 5th. We had 302 citations written with 303 charges, 98 warnings were issued, 30 offense reports, only 2 arrests, and 150 calls for service. Out of those arrests that were made, 1 was a theft, and the other one was a traffic arrest. And that's all I have. I do want to point out that I did add another stat for y'all that wasn't issued on the sheet. It was a fire that the police department put out for the fire department, so they did not. We have small grass fire the police officers were able to put out.
All right, any questions for Assistant Chief Gaines this evening?
No, I do have some information for them. You know, a lot of municipalities, especially in like South Carolina, they're dual agencies, so the policemen carry the fire equipment in their trunks and serve both purposes.
Can we get recliners and TVs and beds and stuff too?
I'll have a trophy.
Thank you, sir. All right, next would be Admin and Finance. Ms. Bullard?
What I have for you is an update on the audit. I spoke with Watkins Uberall, the auditing firm, this afternoon. The report's gone through 2 preliminary reviews, and it still has to go through they call it a QC, quality control. It's a third and a final review. They're anticipating to have the audit ready for us, and we're going to schedule a workshop and a special call meeting for a full review, hopefully by the end of this month.
All right, any questions for Ms. Bullard this evening? Thank you, ma'am. All right, continuing forward, next item on the agenda is the report from the Oakland Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Capella's not here this evening. Really, the main thing that I know coming up is Springfest in early April. Anything else, I'll make sure, request that she forwards out by email, but that's all I'm aware of at this point in time.
Any reason particular they quit coming to their meetings?
I will find that out. I know that 1 month there was an illness, and I'm not sure the others, but I will be meeting and talking to the director, and they've got a new chair that's recently been appointed to find out why we're not having them here at the meeting.
Like they've been here 2 or 3 months or longer.
It's been a few months, yes, sir. Okay. Continuing forward, next are the reports from members of the Board of Aldermen, discussion items. First item is charter amendment, and Vice Mayor Sutton requested that on.
Yes, and I was just wondering if we had had any communication on when possibly this was going to be introduced to the legislature, and if, you know, maybe we could find out, if it was possible, I would drive to Nashville on that day, if we could, you know, get an idea from them of when it would be introduced in the House. And it may be a way that we can keep up with that on the legislative site, but, you know, it would sure help if we could communicate, just asking. And I, you know, if anybody else is interested, we could ride up and maybe be there.
Okay, we will find out. I know, and I believe Ms. Bullard did communicate out. She did send a letter requested communication last month and did get a response back that it was still scheduled. But we will see if they can give us a date, or at least keep us in communication until a date's set if they don't have one at this time.
I was going to address Mr. Brown, and I certainly appreciate you bringing it up. We wholeheartedly agree that it would solve a lot of our problems having that, but our main problem that we had with that legislation last year is we sent that to MTAS. MTAS sent it to their legal, sent it back to us, made us make some changes. We did, And then when it gets to the state law, the state attorneys at the legislature, they found some problems with it. And then by the time that was corrected and sent back, it never did make it out of committee. So we, MTS was the main reason by their legal misleading us or not aware of what the state legislature's legal wanted. So that was the main issue we had with that going through the legislature last year.
Thank you.
Okay. Prepared to move forward?
Yes, sir.
All right, next would be street repairs and paving, and this was Alderman Cates and Vice Mayor Sutton both.
I got a couple of questions, and I guess one of them might be for Mr. Ellis. Over on Misty Fields and Cypress Point Road, where that still, most of the houses look like they're built, but they still got some construction in there. Is that builder still responsible to fix that road over there?
I'm not familiar with that particular area, but I'll find out and shoot you guys.
It's actually two roads and the two streets and
Misty Field or which one?
Cypress Point Road.
Okay.
You can tell so far down where it looks like it's lopped off and just the first layer. So I'm just wondering, are the contractors or whoever who does that responsible? Is it not the town, right?
It should be contractor keeping the holes patched, but that's a unique subdivision because of the length of time that it's set. And I know that there is a statute of limitations or time that the developer is responsible for something of that
But they
nature.
gotta put the second coat on. It's still just one coat on it, the way I can look at it until it's never been refinished.
And they're definitely responsible for the final coat, yes, sir.
Do what, I'm sorry?
They are definitely responsible for the final 1 inch, yes, sir.
So that's both streets, right?
All streets, any subdivision in town, yes, sir.
You or your group go over there, Walter, somebody, would y'all look at that and
Definitely.
get back? Because it looks like it's only one coat and it's rough down through there. I got a couple calls from over there last week.
Okay, we'll look into it and let you guys know.
Another one I got is and I think, Mr. Russ has brought this one up, and I was over there the other day. Over off of, Riverdale and Riverwoods over in that area where those barrels are up to keep them out of that big subdivision from tearing the streets up.
Yes, sir.
They got the barrels moved, was going through there. They're just moving the barrels, and you're causing holes down in that new section now where they should be turning around and coming back through that construction. It's gonna cost us money to do that. Is there a way we can put some concrete barriers over there to stop them from doing that?
I can put a more permanent barricade, definitely. I can take care of that. That's not a problem.
Because I was over there the other day just riding around, and they had moved them and were starting to do that, and you go on down and come through that good subdivision, it's already potholes in there that they're around with them. I guess they do a lot of it. And I've lost my list. Is the Oakland's subdivision or Whispering Pine, is that on our list for repair?
No, sir, for this current project, we're in the final phases. There's some patching that has to be done, and have to do some striping at Meebane and Chickasaw Ridge, and that'll pretty much wrap up this project. So the mayor and I have been working on it 2020, spring, summer, summer, have to be in next year's budget, I'm sure. We can go ahead and...
Could I get with you on this and give you this to this?
Definitely, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's all I have on it.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Sutton?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. Number one, there was a project done on paving that wasn't on the list for this year that we completed on the front side of Northwoods Estates. My question is, did we have to eliminate any project by us taking on that additional project, or is that something that fell within the budget of paving?
If I'm correct, we did a change order on that, Mayor?
Remind me what it was. Now, I don't know of anything that we cut off.
Again, when I made the list, I had on the list was Oakwood Section A and Section B. And on my part, I was not aware that frontage was not in Section A of the development. That's commercial, that was separate. So that's the reason it wasn't done on the list.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, did you say Oakland Woods or North Woods?
Oakland Woods is what I meant.
Okay, I misunderstood. Yeah, no, we added that. There was nothing taken off though. we did a change order that was within the percentage we can, and there was nothing else.
And again, that was just something I missed, that's on me.
And the other issue I want to discuss is we, on our bid package, we require virgin asphalt on all our paving. And I was wondering, you know, the state allows up to, I think, 20 to 30%. Is that, do you
I
know?
think 30. We had allowed 30 here in the past, and we recently made that change,
From the side?
up to 30% recycle, yes. We've done that in the past, and you can talk to the engineer, but we didn't have very good luck with that on one particular project. And that's the reason we made a decision to go with the virgin. But after talking with him, I think, I don't want to cut you off, but my thought is on the next project, have the base bid as virgin, and we always do a deductible alternate and have the 30% wrap, that's what they call it, recycled asphalt, have that as a deductible alternate. So when you get both prices, then the board can decide what they want to do.
Can you tell me where we used recycled asphalt?
And again, I might stand to be corrected, but the first thing that pops in my mind is Chickasaw Ridge Drive originally. And I could be wrong, but I believe that was the one that we had issues and had to come back to redo.
Do you know what percent the state uses on their recycle?
I do not, and I think our number was 30 or 35% maximum, but I can't recall.
Still waiting to find out what the state uses,
I'm sure.
if it's required or whatever, because I know the state recycles all theirs.
I'd like to go a little deeper now. I'd like for us to find out the information on how much more percentage-wise could we pay for the same money if we did use recycled material. And I'm thinking that the state, and I don't know why I'm thinking 20 or even 30%, but they will not use more than that. But I would like to know, and I know it won't be, if it was 20% mixture, I know it won't be 20% less because you still have labor involved in it. I understand that. But I wonder if we could pay 10% more roads, so, you know, instead of a mile and a tenth or something. But I would like to know how much more, and then maybe we could differentiate that and do virgin in high traffic areas like Chickasaw Ridge where you've got all that Walmart traffic, but then in neighborhoods on some of these side streets where you don't have but 15 houses on it, you shouldn't have a lot of traffic there, which would, so, you know, I would just like to see us more in depth on getting more for our money if we could and pay more streets for the same money.
What, do you know the difference in price of the recycle and the virgin?
No, sir, not right offhand.
Could you get that information to me, maybe,
Yes, sir.
along with what the state does?
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious. I talked to Sam Baggett, which is, he runs Ford Construction, so they do a lot of state jobs, and that's who I got my information. They said on their mixture that they've absolutely, hadn't seen any results where virgin lasted longer than, and they do both. He'll sell you both of them, so it's not that, so that's where I got my information from, so.
Okay, I'll do a little research and give you guys some information.
We could pay more streets for the same price of money, it would really help.
Understood.
Anything else on repairs, street repairs or paving? So, okay. Move forward. Sewer projects, Vice Mayor Sutton?
Yeah, just want an update on the east and west project.
Certainly. On the east end, the pump station has been installed. We're expecting the electricity to be ran and connected tomorrow. Once that's done, it's a matter of changing from the old main to the new, and we expect that all to be done by within the next 2 weeks, as long as weather permits. And then from that point, it's just a matter of going back to the state and petition for the moratorium to be lifted, and we'll be back to business as usual. So we're hopefully 2 weeks away in completing the east end. The west end effort, it's been installed, it's been tested and completed, and all is good. The only thing that remains to be done is basically removing the silt fence, which they can't do until it dries out. So it is ready to start development on that end of the municipality.
So that's all they like on the west end, just removing the silt fence?
Yeah, it's installed, it's been tested, and it's ready.
Then the other question is when we met with Mr. King, he basically had 5 projects that he'd like to see the town do, the need for them. The 2 of them were the east and west project, and the other one, what was the
The
other?
next one that I remember, and Cardi, we've already moved it forward with that a little bit, is that we have a 1 mile gap leading from the wastewater treatment plant to the discharge point in the river. That's a 12-inch line. We need to upgrade that 12 to match the 16-inch, and that's going to increase the volume we can move out of that plant, which is going to be a tremendous help. That's the next thing on my list.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Golf course.
I understand we're gonna need that we need to work on some easements for that project.
Yes.
And so do we have that in any budget this year to work on the easements, or is that something that we could amend the budget to try to do, or?
To be honest, I think I have enough money in the budget. I can just move line to line, and we'll be fine on that. Money should not be a holdup on that.
So, excuse me, interrupt, what we're hoping to do, and Attorney Minor's working on the easements, is we expect to bring that project in and get approval to bid in February meeting. And it's very important that we get through that process and hopefully get those easements done so that April, May, as soon as it dries out, we're ready to award that and get it started. We definitely don't want to wait till October because going through the field and because of the area that has to go through.
And just to inform the citizens on this project, when they developed the property around the golf course, they knew that they had to get rid of a lot of water, so they put in a larger pipe to get that water out of there. Well, Oakland had a smaller pipe from years ago because the population and the commercial wasn't there, so they had a lot smaller pipe running into that pipe. And when it comes to heavy rain, we have to have personnel there in our department to be on a computer. It don't matter if it's 2 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock, and help gauge that water and get it out of there. So it's very important that we bring that up to standard. So, and that's a project that I'll be glad when it's complete, and I know everybody else will too.
Yes, sir.
Along with not having to monitor it as close, that will increase the capacity of the wastewater, which will minimize how long, give us more time before we actually have to double the size of that, which will be one of the projects coming up more than likely in the next 2 years. Okay.
I think here, the next one, since we're on that, Mr. Edgar water well, that was another thing on his.
That was the next one, yes. And then I think the treatment plant is last. The water well will be a fairly easy project once we pick a site. And I have a few places in mind, but we haven't really put a lot of time into that, but it's definitely on the radar. Again, I want to clear up a little bit just for clarification for a lot of people that may not know. Later on the agenda, the next one is water well. That's a different well than what we're talking about. That's not for this project that we want in the near future. Our water treatment plant now is located in town, so what I'm talking about on the next well project is to do something in town to feed to that water treatment plant. And there may have been some confusion before, but the test well that we're scheduled for next week, actually, I'll go and jump to that, weather permitting, is on the 1 acre of land that the town owns out west.
Right.
Future.
Behind Fisher's house.
Yes. I mean, confused. I want to
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about on the agenda,
Yes, yes,
was the test well.
Yeah, that's-
Because that was on that priority list from the engineer.
yes.
Yeah, we,
Same one.
That's scheduled for next week. I mean, if the weather permitting, yes.
yeah, we've gotten that contract back in signed, and just a matter of them being able to get out there. That actually was received today just by chance or by nature of it. Okay. Anything else on that water well that answer your questions? All right, next would be mosquito abatement program. Vice Mayor Sutton?
Yes, I know we had talked about taking this in-house, and we were doing some studies, and where are we at on that? And if we're not gonna do it in-house, I would love to see these contracts issued before the breeding season starts, so, you know, we can start spraying in maybe April instead of July or August, and I think it would help our, get rid of our mosquito population a lot more if we could attack them during that first breeding season.
Yeah, what?
Referred to the mayor on that. He's done much more of the legwork on it than I have.
Yeah, what we found is just the equipment and the certification, additional staff, supplies, and liability and any unknown expenses. It's just, just really is a lot more efficient for us to bid that out and do a contract. And what we'd like to do, and hopefully we'll be prepared in February, is to bring a resolution to the board and bid that out on a 3-year contract. And that way we can get started as soon as the weather breaks and it's time. But in talking to municipalities in this area, we're just finding there's a number that had started it, and after the first 2 years found it just wasn't efficient or cost effective, and they weren't getting as good a job done as someone that actually does that as their business for a living from a smaller municipality perspective. So unless this board thinks otherwise, we'll have a resolution getting the authorization to put out a bid in the February meeting, and then we'll get that out in early March in order to get that back in and select them hopefully at the March meeting, probably a special call meeting after the regular meeting, just because of the number of weeks it takes to allow that bid to be processed.
I noticed they finally got back with us on the GPS tracking. You sent out an email on that? And they were unable to provide us with the GPS of where they actually sprayed. Did our contract constitute that they provide us with that, or is that just an amenity that we thought they had and they didn't?
The contract did not require them to provide a regular GPS. It was GPS at the start of it to signify where they would spray, and that's all it was from that point. And in the past, and that's why I want to do a 3-year contract, it's been low cost enough that we can do it through quotes as opposed to bidding it out. And I think we'll get better pricing, and we can include more in a contract on a bid than we do on a quote.
Well, I got something better than that. We can buy a tractor for near nothing and require them to have that on their vehicle when they spray, and it'll tell us every turn they make and every street they make. But we still need to make sure that they're actually spraying chemicals when they do. And I don't know if that's having a reserve police officer follow them while they're spraying, or somebody in the public works follow them. But we need to make sure that, or senior patrol maybe, but somebody needs to make sure that we're getting what we pay for on that. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I just believe in inspecting what you expect out of somebody.
In the state in control of what chemicals they can use and how strong it is?
Well, you have to be certified, and there are such a wide variety of different chemicals that can be used. I mean, the state does ban certain chemicals from being used, but they don't regulate what they're using.
So how do we know that they're not weeding it down? And like Mr. Sutton said, how do you...
Well, you do business with reputable companies that have a reputation for doing it in many areas. And since we're not chemists, I mean, I'll be honest, I can't say I do, but that's why I'm cautious with who I do business with.
But are they reputable if they told us they were gonna have this tracking mechanism? I mean, that's what we were told, that they had this tracking coordinates that you could keep up that showed where they went, and then they didn't provide it when we asked for it. So are they reputable now, that they misled us on being able to show us what spots they hit and what spots they didn't?
We can demand that in a contract, can't we?
If we have a contract and on a 3-year bid, we can put what we want in it.
Well, I'd suggest putting that on there.
Okay?
Well, we can buy our own tracking device, but all that's gonna show is the truck went. It isn't gonna show if the spray was coming out.
But with the spray, you can put the track on there, so with the spray, you can go with the air that they use. If you're going in the area of a 5-mile radius, all that's going to be used in the air. You can.
Right. And I've never looked at how to track what type and how much of a chemical they're using. I know for me, as they come through my neighborhood, I can smell it. But we can do that research. Like I say, I know the companies that we use and who does the contract, if they're caught not doing it, it would be more detrimental to them than actually doing the right thing. But
I guess what I was trying to get at, and we just dropped it before I did, the reason I'm asking you is it some way that the town can find out what chemicals they're actually using in case somebody has got something that's allergic to it that would be harm to some people?
Well, yeah, I mean, the company that we hired to do the job will definitely, if we request, will provide what chemicals they use to
That's what I
spray.
guess I dropped the ball too quick a while ago, because that's what I was asking.
Yeah, they regulate that.
In case somebody is allergic to it though, and breathe that, you know, it could do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
Someone else that's allergic.
When we started doing that, some of the things we looked at is the effects, because I know in years past it affected folks that had asthma and different things, and so we made sure on the front end that it passed all of that EPA requirements and that wasn't an issue. But as far as the specific chemical, I did not, but I mean, that's just a request, and whoever you hire will provide that. If not, we wouldn't hire them if they wouldn't share with us what they were using.
Could I ask Mr. Ellis a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
Remember the day we were talking, and we were talking about getting information out to people, the fastest or the sure way to get it to everybody? You mentioned that you did this once before, some way through your phone, like some of electricity did. So
Other
everybody,
utilities have relationships with other utilities, and several of those use companies that pay fees to that can mass text. It's not a complicated process, but
could you get us a price on that?
I can. But if you want voice message, you want texting, I'll get you some information, the options, and then you guys kind of direct me.
Could you get the board that in, because I had talked to him once before, and if we got an easy way to get this information out, maybe let them know what they are spraying, and everybody would get it and be aware. If it's efficient to get it out, and it don't cost an arm and a leg, why wouldn't we go like that, like Chickasaw did when they cut the electricity off? Everybody got that message.
Yeah, and I would recommend a call post versus a text, just for the sheer fact that sometimes I can't see my phone to read a text, and I know that we've got a very...
They did call. They did call into it. But I just talked to Mr. Ellis one day about that. And you could get that for us, it'd be a big help to the rest of the board would like to see that.
Okay, that's not a problem. Prepared to move forward? All right, next is uniform for town employees, Vice Mayor Sutton.
Yeah, we had discussed this as a board, and I think we agreed that we were gonna try to have our employees, town employees, where they could be identified as such by uniforms. Have we made any progress on that?
Yeah, the call for a bid, and I believe that we did get a resolution from the board to bid out uniforms for Public Works, which would be the first one and the biggest staff, and that's gone out. And I can't remember the timing of getting that back in, but we're working on that. And as far as the office staff, they are looking at just some uniform type shirts, because that's a little different. So they're not looking at uniforms, but I know that they got some shirts and things they wear. But
I think it's safe to assume that employees working in the building are gonna be town employees, especially being behind the counters that they are, but I was more concerned with our employees that's out there in the field every day.
and I know, especially our code enforcement have badges that they wear that have the town information on it and states that it is. But yeah, we are moving that direction. Matter of fact, Public Works has had uniforms, and we're looking at upgrading that contract, so.
If I could do it right there, we're
Please.
scheduled up and bid February the 6th on that. And
Okay.
hopefully present those to you guys next month.
Thank you, I'd forgotten that date. Thank you, sir.
I thought that the code enforcement uniforms is what brought this all about. We agreed that they should have some kind of uniform to be identified.
It is possible for them to be on that same contract once we select one as well. Okay. Prepared to move forward. Next was revolution of the Main Street property plans, Vice Mayor Sutton.
Yeah, I was just wondering where we're at on that.
Yeah, I'd gotten back, and actually on your workstation, I'd put out what we got back from the architect that was looking at it. You should have a drawing, and then what their company proposes for professional services to move that forward. What I recommend, since I didn't get it emailed out prior to the meeting, is I know later this month, I'm going to recommend a workshop and possibly even a special call meeting that we discuss it during that time, as you've had time to digest it, whether we want to try to manage it ourselves or allow this firm or another to actually move forward with that. So that's kind of a rough drawing of what we're looking at as far as the front lobby, the offices, and of course the existing kitchen and conference room we're not planning on changing.
So this would be the front of the building here?
That is the Main Street entrance, for lack of a better word.
So you've got 4 offices, 5 offices right there.
It'd be a total of, 8 offices.
And this would be 3 windows here on the front of this, where the lobby is?
Well, you'd come in and that would be reconfigured and it'd be one window, one sliding window. Well, when you come in the door, there's a corridor there now or an entrance. And so to the right of the door, if you're facing it, would be the utility windows. Yes, sir. And then the documentation kind of describes some of the work, the demolition as far as removing that small wall in the front office and the reconfiguration in order to add the offices to it. Well, and again, depending on if we go with a firm such as this, or if we do, then they'll be responsible for bidding out each phase of it. But if not, then yeah, if we do the work ourselves, we will definitely have to bid it out because the initial review we had, even without the reconfiguration of the lobby, was well over what we could spend without bidding it out.
And what is this hourly rate to?
Well, if you read through the document, there's certain areas that talk about hourly rates could be included or could be involved if it's outside of the regular work for certain things, and this just lays out the principles in their business and what their hourly rates are depending on which one.
Are they out of Somerville? You don't have to call the name to bid it, I know who did it, but I'm just curious if they're office in Somerville.
I believe their offices are actually in Memphis, but they do a lot of work in Fayette County.
Thank you.
Okay.
Had you decided a workshop date?
We haven't. I'm trying to, well, and when we talk about the park and rec plans, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but I'd like to get some ideas of dates the board is available and then try to put these together instead of having 2 or 3 different ones unless y'all prefer to split them up. So we will talk about that and then we'll follow up with some communications. Okay. Continuing forward, next is the Main Street tenant, Alderman Cates.
Yeah, I talked to you about this, and I wanted to get some information from Mr. Minor. Since that tenant had passed away, and that's not, as far as I know, is a corporation where she would be in charge of it, and that contract is gone now, right?
The lease
So,
is void, yes.
so it's void, now we need a new contract for it.
That is correct.
So, that's what I was thinking, if it was a corporation, with her name couldn't be passed on without it being a corporation, then that would be void. It's not, it just don't even exist anymore.
Right, the lease is with an individual, so that individual now being deceased, there is no lease agreement.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but, and Ms. Neal's still waiting on the death certificate, but I have spoken with her. She does plan on keeping the business up and running, and she is aware that there will have to be a new contract, and I'll actually you'll need to discuss it more with Attorney Minor, but I'd rather see it actually in the business name as opposed to an individual, in case they sell it down the road or something changes. But she is aware that she's going to have to sign a new contract, and as soon as she gets that death certificate, we'll move forward.
Will it be basically the same contract we had with him before he passed?
I would expect, unless this board wants to do it differently.
Remember, how much rent was he paying, plus he was paying his light, gas, and water too? What was the rent on that building?
Off the top of my head, unfortunately, I don't remember specifically, but he is paying utilities and the rent.
$150 a month.
How much?
Thank you.
$150 a month plus the utilities.
Okay. Anything else on Main Street tenant?
Do you know when we get the contract on that?
Well, I can draw a lease agreement up and with a day's notice.
Well, we shouldn't have the attorney do that if we've already got one on the other one. We can just white out the one he did for the last one, no sense paying him again. We can just white out the last one at the same contract and get a new contract with the new tenant.
I'm currently waiting on Miss Neal to let me know. She has to go through some business, and her son is actually running the business remotely. And so I'm waiting on that name that it needs to be in, and we'll get it updated and reviewed, and then we'll get it back in front of the board. I mean, right now, my expectations are we have a special call meeting later in the month to review the audit, that we would have that on that agenda at that time for this board to provide authorization for us to move forward with it and sign it.
What I meant to say, I'm trying to be more political. You did such a fine job on the last one, we'll just use it again.
I knew that's what you meant.
I'd like to see it go back to the day she took it over. I'm not so much as worried about that back stuff with all this.
Oh, she's made good. They're current through January.
Is it in the contract that they pay their rent the first of the month?
They have from the 1st to the 14th, on the 15th, there's a late fee.
Okay. Does it have to be 14 days? It couldn't be like 7?
That's the way that's the way it was written. I mean, we can do it however you choose, that's not the way it was.
It's just, I guess, I don't know, typical is the right word, and normally you give someone 14 days, but again, when the board is certifying the contract, then you can make what changes that you feel is necessary.
I'm gonna tell you, you do business like he does, and I don't know if y'all are aware of it, but it's a lot of custom work and not around here. So he spent a lot of time out of town, and those jobs, he's gone for a period of time. I think that 15 days is reasonable for a man that travels.
Okay? All right. We okay to move forward? All right, next would be Park and Recreation Plan, Vice Mayor Sutton.
Yes, I want to thank you, first of all, for getting us this information. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at them, but it was awfully exciting. And I guess that my question on it is, when are we going to take time to go over this and try to choose? And with that, was there any prices, or is it quotes or anything like that, or is it just?
They did not include any cost in the RFQ. Just strictly other jobs they've done, what they bring to the table, that sort of thing.
So this just more or less lets you look at who we think is qualified to even bid the job. Okay. Well, there was some good responses in there, and I saw one that there wasn't very much information on,
I
but
saw 2 that I was real interested in.
but actually I thought it was some good stuff, and I appreciate you getting that to us, and I look forward to moving forward on this project.
So is the board available later this month for a workshop to discuss this, as well as the Main Street building?
What about the grant writer? Could we go in with that? Did you come up with anything on that?
Well, we've got different grant writers that are available to us.
I thought we agreed to go with the one you talked about.
Yes, community development partners definitely do park grants as well as other stuff. Matter of fact, they're the ones that recommended that when we get a grant, that we actually specifically carve out what it's for, because once you put that park grant on there, most of the federal ones, it stays that forever. And since we've got a couple different things on it, but yes, I've been in conversations, and they're anxiously awaiting us to
We need to
move
move
forward.
on that. We're dragging that one out month to month. We really need to move on that, but if you decide if you want to go with that.
But what I would recommend is in our workshop that on the RFQs, that if we can't narrow down one, we narrow it down to two, and we can always ask them to come in and do a presentation shortly after that, once we get those two down, if we can get to that point. Okay? We okay to move forward?
You had mentioned this, will we be available for the workshop at the end of this month?
Yeah, maybe the right question, are there any dates that you're not available? And then I'll check calendars and send out a couple options that the courtroom is available. And then you can respond back which one works best. Okay, so there's no dates later in the month that we're not available.
Monday's on the day I'm pretty good. This coming Monday. But it's holiday.
Okay, well, we can get it together that quick. Okay. All right, moving forward, we've got refugees, Vice Mayor Sutton.
Yes, I handed a resolution that the county, and Mayor, I don't think I gave you a copy.
You did.
Did I?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So, I don't know how many is aware, but the President of the United States left it up to states and local governments to accept refugees into their environment. The state of Tennessee's governor did make Tennessee refugee state to accept them. So it's up to the local governments at this point to either accept or refuse refugees. I don't know how everyone feels. I did some research on it, and in Pennsylvania, they recently had an arrest of a refugee there that was planning a terrorist attack. And of course, tensions are high right now in a lot of countries. We have several people here, local veterans, that are not taken care of now in our country, in our state, and in our county, and in our town. I don't feel like it's our place to accept people from another country right now when there's people here that need our help. And I'd like for the board to consider the resolution that the county has. I also discussed with our commissioners, Commissioner Powers, Commissioner Goodrow, and Mayor Taylor, that if the county passed this resolution to not accept refugees, would that exempt Oakland, since Oakland is in Fayette County? But since Oakland has its own government, it would be up to Oakland to make that determination. Of course, the paper here is Shelby County. That's our neighbor. They are what, less than 2 miles from us? So it's my concern, and that's why I asked for the rental stuff. But if you have federal Section 8 housing, it's possible that they could locate refugees here. And I'd like for us to consider a resolution to where we do not accept any refugees at this time into the town of Oakland. Any other feelings on this?
No, I totally agree. Our taxpayers, their money goes to their security in the community for as police and fire, and I feel like that we need to take care of ours before we take on anything else.
There's some studies that's shown to where these refugees were relocated over in Arkansas, that the police came where they could not make the calls in their town to all the problems they were having. And it's my understanding that when they locate them, the federal government is responsible for a certain period of time, and then that the funding has to come from local sources. So I make a motion, we draft a resolution for the town of Oakland in resemblance to Fayette counties by substituting Oakland, Tennessee for Fayette County.
Vice Mayor Sutton, before that resolution, or before your motion, could I say a couple of things or provide some information to the board as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. not sure if you're aware, but state legislators are in the process of drawing up a bill that will basically stall or challenge Governor Lee's decision. It does deal with allocation of funds, and if the state accepts refugees, they do have to be willing to allocate funds. The governor cannot allocate funds. Similar to our government, the legislator appropriates the fund, the governor or the mayor manages those funds moving forward. So I think you'll hear that come out very soon. When I spoke to some of the legislators recently, it was actually being drafted at that time. So I have a feeling you may see the state of Tennessee go back to where we were, just using the financial perspective. I don't disagree with what's being said, but I also move it to like to understand what the state's doing before we react, just so that we can make sure if there's anything that we lose by designating that before the state makes their final decision, that we don't miss out on any potential state or federal funds. I agree. I don't believe we need refugees here. We need to take care of what we've got. But I would ask that we consider watching the state and reacting from what the current legislation does, or at least consider that.
Would it be too late for us to do it then? Sometimes you wait and then it's too late. You're already here, and then what do you do?
Well, I don't think it's any reason, I don't think it's any danger if the state does what they do, but it's not gonna hurt us to print a couple of pieces of paper and go ahead and say, hey, not here. And so maybe that'll send another message to our legislatures of our feelings of what we feel in this time. So, I've been waiting on the federal government and big state government to do what I wanted them to do for a lot of years. And it seems like things that pass and let me say this, Governor Lee, I was a supporter of his, and just because I don't agree with Governor Lee on every item, don't mean that I wouldn't support him again. I'm not going to agree with anybody in this room 100% of the time. So I'm not mad at Governor Lee for making that decision. Sometimes we make some and say some things in haste and when times are not appropriate. I certainly have done that several times. But I do think that we don't wait on anybody to do what we want. And we have the opportunity right now, there's a motion on the floor to have a resolution drawn up for our next appointed meeting and pass that resolution if the board so desires. And I'm not withdrawing my motion.
Okay, so we've got a motion, and let me clarify, a motion that the next regular meeting or the next meeting that the resolution will be prepared?
Our next meeting, whenever that will be, a special call meeting or a regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to create a resolution of no consent for refugee resettlement in the town of Oakland. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. Any other discussion needed? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It does pass. We will prepare that for the next meeting. Okay. Continuing forward, there is no old business. New business would be Resolution 2001, and I actually misstated earlier, but Resolution 2001 is a resolution of the town of Oakland to have the board give the mayor authority to sign a contract with a CPA consultant to help with our accounting. Do I have a motion to review for approval, to review Resolution 2021?
Motion to review.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. Discussion.
Yes, this contract is dated July the 5th of 19, and it looks to be executed already.
Well, the reason it's coming in front of the board, it has been a month-to-month, it's professional services, but we're getting, we're wanting to be more long-term, and even though it will still be month-to-month, we want to make sure the board is aware of it, and we're potentially coming up to a cost that is right at $10,000, and we don't want to go over that without the board being aware as well, so that is why it's coming to you now.
Is this the same guy that's been working for us?
He's been working with me since July, yes.
Did he used to work for the auditing firm?
No.
So this is a different guy.
It is.
The one that we had used last year or previously that you're referring to, actually went back into, he's working for a local municipality, so he's no longer doing this consultant work. So this is where we came up with this particular individual was after that. And I believe his resume's here, so he's got really good credentials and can bring a lot to the table in helping the be trained as well, the staff, excuse me, I can't speak, being trained moving forward and providing that support we need since we're not prepared to bring on that position at this point in time.
How much a month?
16, it says that accounting in the amount of 20,000 annually, or 1666.67 per month. So this is a professional service, right?
It's a professional service.
But it's not, this ain't the only person in our area that could do this service, is that correct?
That is correct.
It's over the amount of $10,000, correct?
It is.
Were any bids taken on this service?
No, they were not.
It's not required on professional services.
I think it should.
This ain't a service that couldn't be done by different people though. And so if it's already, he's been working here since July, we would then be going back to ratify something that should have been done before it ever happened. And so I'm not prepared to vote for it. I mean, y'all do what y'all want to.
Not everything hadn't been.
A matter of fact, I mean, it's gonna have to be reported.
Why does it have to be, I mean, you're welcome to report it, but why does it have to be reported? We've not,
Because it's over the amount of $10,000 that requires a bid process for the service.
for professional service. Attorney Minor, would you please,
I mean, as far as the professional services, I think TCA 12-3-1209 would exempt it from competitive requirements. I don't think that it would be, I think it's a professional service that can be awarded based on competency. I've got a copy of the statute, but I didn't make a copy for everybody.
Well, let me ask you this, is he the only person within a reasonable, in Germantown, Tennessee, is where he's from, at a reasonable amount of time, that would be competent enough to do this job?
Well, I'm sure that there's many people that would be competent to do the
Then
job.
why would you not take bids and see if you can save money on it? Why would you not see if you can get somebody to do it for less than this?
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be bid, I'm just saying it doesn't have to be. It's not legally required.
Would you agree that our job and duty is to protect the taxpayers' money and get jobs to be done for the least amount of money by somebody that is competent? Would you agree?
Yes.
I certainly do. It's just something that I'm against doing. When we need something done, then we go by the purchasing policy and our agreements, and we can determine if somebody's competent by references or whatever, but the main thing is getting it done. Our duty is to make sure we get it done for the least amount of money that we can do to save our taxpayers' money.
At least you get a chance out there to do better.
I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm just saying that you're not legally required to do it.
We can request it, right?
Certainly.
I'll make a motion that it be bid out.
Well, what are you gonna do, what are we gonna do about, we've been paying them since July?
Report it.
Well, this particular agreement appears to be something that can be terminated on 30 days' notice.
So to get this straight, I know the mayor asked you to explain it to us. How do you think this should have been handled from the start, from a legal perspective?
Well, I mean, I'm of the opinion that any award of a contract is best filtered through the board.
Before it happens or 7 months afterwards?
Well, before.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm also of the opinion that you don't have any legal issues here.
we'll make sure the board is also aware that your directive was to get the books closed out in a timely manner, which we hadn't done in years. And this particular type of service allowed us to get to the point that we are now. Now, if you don't want to continue forward with it, or if you want to handle it a different way, we can, but there are decisions that have to be made in the process of a day, and I made that decision.
I'd like to get the budget in on time one time, but I want to do it legally or right.
Well, no, please, let's not continue to call this illegal. There's nothing illegal about what's been done.
Hold up just a
Now,
second.
if the board decides that they don't want to move forward with it, that's fine, but the word illegal is a very inflammatory and a very bad.
It's against our municipal code or charter, because it says that the board should approve all contracts. And the board hadn't approved this contract, and it was executed in July. So whether it's against the law or not, it's against our municipal code or our charter. It's in one of those two. I'm not sure, I could take the time to look it up, but I'm telling you that either in our municipal code or in the charter, it says that the board should approve all contracts. And we didn't approve this.
Okay? So the board is not interested in moving forward with this? What are the board's desires?
I'm not interested in moving forward with it.
Get more information.
It's solely based on that it's dated July the 5th. I'm not ready to move forward on it.
Okay? Now, I will tell you that 30 days, so I've given him 30 days notice to disband the contract, was it's not a problem, and we will do that, and then asking to consider when the bid comes out to bid. Okay?
Would Mr. Gabb have any duty on knowing what our municipal code is or charter and on who he could execute a contract with the town? Would this not be, and since it wasn't approved by the board, would it be a legal contract?
I think that it's, look, I saw this contract within the last week for the first time. I think that this contract is clearly an enforceable agreement because the signature of the mayor is someone who has apparent authority to sign as the agent of the town. So I don't think there's any question that the contract would be enforceable. Now, whether or not Mr. Gabb, who has apparently a long resume of municipal accounting services with Germantown, should have known whether or not it would be better for the board to bless it, I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, my problem with blessing something like this is that letter we received from the Attorney General saying that everything that was done wrong in the 16 audit was either done by poor legal advice or ratification by the board. And I understand you wasn't an attorney then, but I do feel obligated to check further before I approve something when there's any question about it whatsoever. And this is questionable to me by a contract that's dated July the 5th. And that was a long time ago.
My question about, you have an ordinance that says that the mayor may enter into certain contracts that are not going to be, without board approval, that are not going to be more than $10,000 per year, and this falls into that category. However, this is a contract that if it was paid out over a year would be more than $10,000, it would be $20,000, I think.
Yeah.
The fact that it is a month-to-month contract and can be terminated on 30 days' notice, although I've not looked into it, may be an exception that would allow it to be executed in the manner that it was. I don't know the answer to that question, though. I can certainly find out the answer to that question.
Okay, so anything else, the board's not taking any action on Resolution 2001, any other discussions necessary on it this evening? We prepared to move forward.
So we'll bring this back next month. Are you look into it, about it?
Well, Attorney Minor will look into it. What my intentions are since the board wants to bid this out, is to bring a resolution bidding out the CPA services, because we've got to have this position filled in order to continue forward. So that's my expectation. If the board wants to handle it any differently, we can definitely do that. But since the board made it clear they want to bid this thing out, then that's my intent. If the board wants to handle it differently, this would be the time to let me know. Okay?
I just would like to make a motion, just resolution, I don't know. Resolution be just dropped completely to a further date.
If we, and I can appreciate that, Mr. Cates, if you don't make a motion to approve it, it just kind of dies on the vine, so to speak. So if we don't take any further action, it won't go any further. The board has to actually pass it for any action to be taken on it.
I withdraw that.
Okay. All right, so we move forward. Next would be the approval of invoices or credit applications. I have a motion to review for approval, an invoice on the list this month.
Motion to review.
I have a motion by Alderman Rector. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. Discussion, you should have one invoice from M&M Micro, and the reason it's on here is because it's over 45 days. And I'll tell you, we just recently received this, January 1st, as you'll see the date stamp on the actual invoice itself.
On the police department.
Yes, sir. Any questions or discussion?
So we don't require purchase orders on all purchases?
This was part of an agreement that the police department, I think I'll let Larry explain. It's a SOMS.
We have an annual agreement with SOMS to handle our courtware system. Used to, they handled everything, but when this board approved us to go with the Watson system, which did our e-citations, the court system had to write a program to merge the two softwares together. And because we already had an annual maintenance agreement with them, it's listed in the wordage of that is a above and beyond scope of that agreement. So this was a separate fee that they charged us. But they are part of our contractual services.
Yeah, I'm not arguing about owing the money or anything. I guess I'm trying to figure out what we do not require a purchase order for.
It's always been my understanding if it's a continuation on the contractual services, that we don't have to get a purchase order because that was done on the original agreement.
I maybe, something that we've looked over, but I don't know why in the world we wouldn't require a purchase order on all purchases. It's not that big a deal. It's just keeping up with them in a numerical system of your purchases. Mayor, can you help me out on that? What do we not require a purchase order for? Is it a certain amount?
500, less than 500 less.
So typically, if there's a contract in place, such as software like this, now any hardware, if we've got a contract, we get POs on, but typically, software, professional type services, if there's a contract in place, we don't get a PO on. And it's very unique as far as, since I've been here, we've never had an issue
This
with
is a unique
Tom's getting
situation.
this out.
If the amount is over 500 though, shouldn't we have a purchase order? Would it be, we couldn't do a purchase order on this now?
No, this was actually invoice from February of last year.
So they just asking for their money.
Yeah, they said that they mailed it, which of course we didn't receive it, so when they went back, I'm assuming, and closed out their end of year books and found out this was an open invoice.
This was on a different budget then, actually.
It was, but we gotta pay it out of this year's.
Is that why we were going to do a budget amendment?
No, it was for some fire department equipment that they were getting.
So how would be the best way to do a budget amendment on something like this from last year's budget?
Well, you wouldn't have to do that because
You wouldn't have to.
as long as they have money in the budget now that would cover it, then you wouldn't have to do an amendment.
You have to use the word miscellaneous.
Well, it would still be booked, it's just they're gonna have to account for this $750 that they hadn't in their original budgeting, which fortunately the police department is very diligent in what they do, and they typically manage this type of thing. But, I mean, it still needs to be posted to a particular account that it was drawn under, and our accounting process followed. It's just the sheer fact that $750 that they necessarily didn't account for when they were creating the budget for this particular fiscal year.
That show up something since it's last year, when they do the audit, next year they catch it, so they won't put it on.
It came in after the,
Audit was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was just received, it was just received this month and it's dated, but the invoice is dated 2/8/19, but it was received January the 1st of 20.
It seems like a big software company with email.
Well, normally they, on our annual agreements, they email me invoices annually. My conversation with them on this, why wasn't this emailed, they could not provide me documentation on when they emailed it, so therefore it wasn't emailed. Their only explanation was it was mailed. Of course, we're pretty good about, receiving our mail. We never received an invoice. It is on me that this just kind of went away, I forgot about it. I knew about the charge at the time. It was contractual services. We don't typically get POs on contractual services for our IT company every time something comes in. So I didn't feel like I had to obtain a PO back in February.
Not any late charges on it. I mean, we owe the money, right?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion we approve the invoice.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Does pass. Next item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Alderman Rector, second. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.